So I think that it's easier to report higher levels of happiness when you perceive it to be your only option is living in the home and having children and raising them.
Yeah.
So, but what do you have to say to that? Because
yeah, so interestingly,
because it goes to your like underreported things,
yeah,
like you were
well,
talking
first
about
of
earlier.
all, when you give anecdotal evidence like, oh, my mom and mom's friends,
I can give you an actual study if you want.
may have and I can refute it, I promise. But here's the thing: when you give anecdotal evidence and you say, well, my mom's friends, this and that, wish that they could have gone to school. There's also
saying I can get, if somebody says I can give you a study and then somebody says and I can refute it, I guarantee you, you know that they're like being totally disingenuous, right? Like just saying that just on his face, like, because you don't know the validity of the study, you don't know how, you know what I mean? Like, what if it's a 50-year comprehensive study, yada yada yada, you know what I'm saying? Like, peer reviewed 25 times, it stands the test of time, yada yada yada, has been updated, and him just being like, oh no, I'm sure I could refute it with what? You know what I mean? Like, based on what? Refute it with what? Logic or anecdotal experience? Like, you know what I'm saying? Or can you refute it with with a study of the same validity? Right? Like, doubt it, but he just automatically is like, and I refuse. I guarantee you, I can refute it. This dude is such a jackwagon.
Anecdotal evidence and an awful lot of it, and you can find it on YouTube right now, tons of women saying they wish that they had not gone and gotten a career and wish that they would have instead deferred those childbearing years in order to have a family, because they see the happiness levels of their friends, colleagues, co-workers, things like this. That anecdotally is also just as true. But to even go on to the ignorance is bliss, I could say this and make this:
women, childless unwed women are happier than married women with children. Right? And that's not even hard to believe, especially if you have kids. Especially if you, and it doesn't mean that you regret having your kids if you have kids, but that's not hard to believe. I also can believe there's a large demographic of women who, if they didn't have kids, they wouldn't have felt completed. There's a large demographic of women who don't have kids and they don't feel completed. There's a large demographic of women who aren't married and they don't feel complete. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can believe any of that. I'm not saying like this is not black or white in any way, shape, or form. But for the most part, in this economy, in this world, I 100% can believe that unwed, childless women are the happiest group of people on planet Earth. I can completely see that without a doubt. With no studies, I can believe that. But there are studies to substantiate that claim. So him using the anecdotal, like, I see videos of women, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. But there are way more videos of women talking about having children with a man is not for the faint of heart. I wish I never had children with this man. Most of the time, the women aren't even really complaining about having kids. They're complaining about having kids with a man. Like, they're like, fuck, I just got done doing a video on Ashanti and Nelly, and Nelly abandoning Ashanti with a small child, and he's going to go on tour for a year or some crazy shit like that. And she's being nice. And she's like, oh, yeah, it's kind of crazy. I wish he wouldn't do that. Darn it. But like, dude, women often regret having children with men because men overpromise and underdeliver.
Case about literally anything. I could say, well, I would love heroin, right? I've never taken it, but ignorance is bliss, right? Oh, what? I could say ignorance is bliss about literally anything, any drug,
well, that's not the only
hang on, any
though.
risky, I didn't cut you off, any risky behavior, any of this. I could say that about anything. What you're doing is saying, these women are happy. There must be some bad reason for that.
Oh no, some women are happy.
No, you're saying,
I agree.
These women are happy, and there must be a bad reason for that. And the bad, because they're doing traditional, because they're doing traditional gender roles. So that must be bad. So we can explain that away by saying, if they had all these negative experiences, that those women who have those negative experiences actually report a higher unhappiness level, those women would actually be happier. That's absurd logic, by the way.
So right now, she and he are talking about the reported happiness levels of women who have children, who are married, yada, yada, yada. She was just saying, though, she was just making the point that a lot of women, when they report their levels of happiness, it's because they don't, like, essentially she's saying, like, they don't know any better. Like, they don't, you know what I mean? Like a lot of them have to convince themselves that they're happy. so that they don't go crazy in the relationship, so that they don't go crazy raising their kids. So they'll actually convince themselves that they're happy. And then when they do a study, they'll just say, yeah, no, I'm happy, or whatever the case may be. Look, is there a way to study that? I don't know. But logically, though, can I see that, actually happen? Absolutely. Why is that? That's not hard to believe either.
Okay, sure. Well, again, I agreed with you on quite a few things there, but I would also like to say that, like I said at the beginning in my opening statement, the home being the most dangerous place for women, like there are women who are in abusive marriages, and so they have to convince themselves that they are happy because their husband is beating them or like assaulting them or harming their children. And when you're in that sort of situation, it's very difficult to be able to walk away from it, and oftentimes because you're isolated. And so, yeah, because the home is the most dangerous place for women, and 6 women are killed every hour in the home around the world. Those are very difficult realities that a lot of people don't want to grasp. And I'm not saying that every woman doesn't, isn't happy in the home. I think there are plenty of happy moms. I mean, my mom has worked and raised our children, her children, and my sisters and I, and like helped my dad out with like work. But yeah, for the most part was a stay-at-home mom. And I think she really enjoyed it. But for me at this point in my life, that's not something that I would like. And it's not to say that it's, it's a bad thing, but I think that some people are convincing themselves that they're happy when in reality it's a very difficult situation.
I'm going to have to go back to the NIS where I point out to you that as you keep saying that the most dangerous situation for women is in the home.
Well, that's according to the UN around the world, though.
Okay,
not just here.
Okay, but inside of the United States, at least, and inside of the Western nations, this is a commonality that they all share. It's not usually from the husband. It's usually from boyfriends.
That doesn't negate what she said. That doesn't negate what she said. She said, in the home is the most dangerous place for a woman. He's saying like, oh, well, husbands don't typically unalive their wives, which they do a lot. Too many do. One is too many, so too many do. But anyways, he's saying like, well, the boyfriends do. It doesn't matter. She just made a statement. She said the least safe place for a woman is in her home, meaning the man sleeping next to her, whether it be her husband or her boyfriend, is the one that's most likely to harm her. That is unequivocally true in the West, in the East, in the North, in the South, fucking intergalactically. It doesn't matter. The man is most likely to harm the woman. That's all that she's saying. The man in her home, is most likely to harm her. Listen to how he tries to deflect. This is crazy. It has nothing to do with what she said. It doesn't negate what she said. It actually makes her point further. They do this all the time. They try to bring up stats, right? And the things that they typically bring up actually make the point further.
I have to go back to the NIS where I point out to you that as you keep saying that the most dangerous situation for women is in the home.
Well, that's according to the UN around the world, though.
Okay,
not just here.
Okay, but inside of the United States, at least, and inside of the Western nations, this is a commonality that they all share. It's not usually from the husband. It's usually from boyfriends of single women or single moms, or as far as, for instance, cohabitation.
How can you be a single mom and have a boyfriend? I'm confused. That doesn't make sense. You're not a single mother. You have a boyfriend. You're not single. You have a boyfriend. What are you talking about? That was dumb. This dude's so dumb. But men don't care because men love grifters. When they regurgitate things and say things that don't make them uncomfortable or challenge their worldview in any way, they will follow these men to the ends of earth.
Leads to some of the worst outcomes for women when they're not married, and men. It leads to terrible outcomes for both. This idea that you have that when you say this, is very loaded. It gives the impression that husbands are at home abusing their wives, and the opposite is actually true. The truth is that when women get divorced and they end up in these occupied relationships, that's when they end up with the most amount of abuse, not from their husbands.
Well, it's from men. Husband, boyfriend, baby daddy, men. And it's not the opposite. It's the opposite would be when they're with their husbands, they're safer than with anybody, even by themselves. They're more safe that's the opposite. What you're describing isn't the opposite. It's just a different version. It's just like, okay, replace husband with boyfriend. Replace boyfriend with baby daddy. Does he live there? Cool. Replace baby daddy with husband. Whatever. It's the same, different fonts, same shit, same program, same thing.
Well, I think it's, you know how we were talking about earlier about like confounding factors and other things that might, the classification of things might change the results of studies. For this one, I'm looking at it, and it says facts and statistics on, domestic violence DV, and it's mainly including partner, intimate partner. So it's not talking about husband or boyfriend.
That's why we separate them, right? So we would separate those two categories to see who's the more abusive.
Do you have a statistic?
Yes, I just gave it to you twice from the NIS.
But I know, but like I'm looking at it, and again, like I'm having.
Show me the.
He has never seen. She's basically saying, where does it say in the study that you're citing that husbands are less abusive than boyfriends? She's saying she looked it up and she didn't see that. I've never seen that either. I've seen IPV. I've never seen it be like differentiated in that way, where it says like husbands are safer than boyfriends or domestic partners or whatever the case may be. I've never seen that. Personally, I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I'm just saying I've never seen that. And she's saying the same thing. She's like, yeah, I looked up that study and it doesn't say that in there. And he's just saying like, it's in the study. And she's like, yeah, I read the study. It doesn't say that in there. This dude is a fucking liar. This dude, Andrew or whatever his name, Andrew Wilson, he's a liar. Like all he does is lie. He never tells the truth. What he's saying is a blatant lie. Like what? Husbands are more, look, if I had to guess, when it comes to like family annihilators, those are mostly husbands that do that, not boyfriends. Husbands do that. Divorces are more dangerous than breakups. And I don't know this, by the way, I'm not saying this as a fact. I'm just saying like when I think about it, when I process it, divorces are more dangerous for the women than breakups. No doubt about it. Men have more to lose in a divorce. Therefore, divorces are or at least the perception of losing. But yes, divorces are more dangerous for women and children than breakups. You're less likely to be harmed in a breakup because it's easy. You guys on the lease together? Wait till the lease ends and fucking break up. You know what I'm saying? Move out. It's different when you're married. That's your house. You guys, you know what I'm saying? You guys have a mortgage together. You guys might own a business together. The embarrassment of because you had 300 people at your wedding and they all saw you say I do and till death do us part and all of that stuff. And now you're more embarrassed because the community is going to judge you differently. The community doesn't judge you the same when you break up with your girlfriend. They don't. Everybody knows that. You're not ostracized the same. Man or woman, husband or wife. You have more to lose as a husband than you do as a boyfriend. So it would stand to reason that divorces are way more dangerous than breakups. He's just up here fucking lying. Doesn't mean this is just a blatant lie. It doesn't even make sense.
Numbers from the NIS that you're looking at. I actually don't believe you.
Oh, I'm not looking at that NIS right now. I was looking at it earlier. Could not find the number you were talking about.
Yeah, but you looked at it for
does not
1
exist.
minute.
No, I didn't.
You did. I literally pulled it direct from the NIS itself.
When there is a minor in the home and there is abuse, they look at both parents, and in that case they are finding, according to the Domestic Violence Center data for Mankind Initiative, I'm finding
the Mankind Initiative.
Yeah, here,
the cult, the Mankind Initiative.
This is what they do. This is what grifters do. This is what right wingers do. This is what red pillars do. I'll be honest with you guys. PragerU is a joke, right? PragerU is not a real thing. It's a cult, whatever. MAGA is a cult, whatever, right? Cool. But PragerU, let's say, I'm just using them as an example. If PragerU conducted a study, right? And that study stood up against, it was peer reviewed and it passed the smell test, right? It was peer reviewed and it passed. I don't give a fuck if PragerU did it. I'll believe it. If the study has been peer reviewed, I'll believe it. I don't care who did it. That's the point of it being peer reviewed. So him not contending with the idea that the study that she's citing is peer reviewed, he instantly goes to invalidate the organization. that did the study. Oh, the cult. Nobody has ever called those people a cult. I've never heard of those people being referred to as a cult. He's just making that up on the spot almost. Oh, the cult. The cult.
I have no idea what you're talking. I mean, this is like it's a statistic, like it's like a study that's produced.
Yeah,
I could go to the University of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, do that, because the Mankind Initiative, as far as I know, is a Western cult which exists as a demasculating agency. Just so you know.
Exactly. That's not even a real thing. Like when you think about it, there's no agency like hell bent on demasculating men. Not one. Like that's not that statement, those words, when you put them in succession of one another, like they don't make sense. A demasculating, like what? That's not even a real thing. Nobody has ever uttered those words ever. I've never heard that before. That's stupid. That's that rhetoric comes straight from a 4chan chat board somewhere in the deepest, darkest corners of the fucking dark web or some shit. Like, what are you talking about? That's not a real thing. There is no organization that does that.
Okay. Well, so it's saying analyzing 31,000. This is Penn today. So this does go to your point. It is just slightly above the spouse rate for abusive boyfriends. But again,
and those go reported much more, right? The marriage rates go reported much more than than these rates where you're living outside of the home with another man.
Right. So
because that's the more common living arrangement. Therefore,
that's not the rate. That's not the rate. That's not the rate. The rate, how do we know the rate is it? We don't know if the rate's the same. We don't know if it's different. That's not the rate. If he means the overall number, right? Okay, cool. But okay, so she found the number. She said that it's slightly higher from boyfriends to husbands. I've never seen that before. So again, cool. I believe it. I'll buy it. But to her point, to my point is men are still dangerous. The man in the home is still the person that's most dangerous, whether it be the husband or the boyfriend. That study that he brought up does not negate that. Still,
I'm correct. It is true that the most dangerous situation is co-occupancy, not marriage.
I mean, there's different. I think it's difficult. You deal a lot in absolutes, and as a teacher, that's something that we are told not to do to facilitate like open communication. Is because you typically say, "Well, this is true. This is true. That means I am truth. I am correct in saying this thing." But again, statistics are changing all the time. So actually, you're contradicting yourself because at the beginning you were like,
"What I'm saying is
things
change. I can negate these with logic by simply pointing this out."
I mean, you can negate anything when you talk to yourself like you do, because you're not really listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth.
I'm listening to, do you want me to steel man your position? You just said to me that everything when it comes to statistics is fluid. I would tend to agree with that based on oncoming data, which is coming in. However, we still have to apply logic and inductive reasoning even when we're dealing with data sets, especially.
I didn't say we don't. I agree.
So those are unchanging, unconfounding variables, logic and reason. So if we're using those two things, we can easily point to this and say, we know for sure that it's going to be underreported in cohabitation and possibly reported at least better from the marriage standpoint. That's probably true. I don't think
that's not what the rate would be, though. The rate would be per 100,000 couples, 3,000 of them report blah 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 when they're cohabitating. Per 100,000 couples, 2,800 report if they're married. Like that's the rate. Like what the fuck? And he knows that. He understands that for sure because he plays his game all day.
Dispute that.
Yeah, actually, I found a study to your point. Researchers have consistently found higher rates of violence in cohabitating compared to marital relationships, but in those cases, still it is 95% of perpetrators are male. So what do you have to say in terms of that?
Yeah. Okay. So here's what happens. What feminism has done, especially
again, listen to her point. Remember, her overarching point was women are not safe at home. She didn't say marry. I never heard her say marry women or wives or what she said. Women are more, the place where they're the least safe is at home with a man. That's what she's saying, right? The studies he's giving, the studies that he's citing makes her point for her, right? Because they all point to the same thing, that men, again, 95% of the time are the perpetrators, the men that live with them specifically. Her point stands. What is anything he's saying? How does it negate anything that she's saying? That's all I want to know. How to any freaking weirdo man that agrees with this guy, I want to understand if the point that she's making is that men in the home are the most dangerous to the women in the home and the children in the home, how can you refute that with logic and with facts? Because that is the point. And that's, I literally just got done talking about this earlier. The men, the number one person who men need to protect women from are themselves. The person that I need to protect my family from is me. Meaning, I need to make sure that I'm emotionally regulated. I need to make sure that I get enough sleep. I need to make sure that I'm mentally healthy, that I'm doing the work. I'm unpacking my trauma so that I don't react, in an inappropriate, aggressive, violent, whatever way that may harm my family, my wife, my children, right? I need to make sure that I'm that person. I talk, my son, right? My son is afraid of me. Like most kids are afraid of their parents, right? Mind you, I've never hit my son. I don't even yell at my son. But my son is afraid of me. He said, he's like, oh, I'm more afraid of my dad than I am of my mom. He says he's afraid of both of us, though, my wife and I. And I think afraid might be the wrong word, but we ask him all the time or whatever, like kind of like joking, like, who are you more afraid of? And he's always like, Daddy more. And my son just basically just said, he was like, yeah, because dad's a man. So it's just the threat of violence that he's afraid of, right? Whether have I ever been violent towards him one day in our life? Never. Not one day. Not one day have I ever been violent. He said, and never mind. My son is very perceptive. He's a smart child. But he said that's what he said about our relationship, our dynamic. He was like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Like, yes, I'm afraid of dad, or I'm more afraid of dad. But I make sure, though, even with that being said, though, when you ask him, oh, has your dad ever yelled at you? No, my dad's never yelled at me. Has your dad ever hit you? No, he's never hit me. He's just afraid because I'm bigger. That's it, which is natural. But my son is not running around here like my son can talk to me. He knows that he can tell me stuff. My son, quote unquote, tells on himself all the time because he knows like he doesn't really, there's consequences, but he knows he's not going to be like harmed. Oh man, I was at school today, Dad. I forgot my homework at home, yada, yada, yada. I know you guys told me to put it in my backpack. I didn't put it in. Like, I'm not going, get over here. And like, you know what I'm saying? I'm be like, dude, bro, what the hell? No more game. No more, you know what I mean? Like, no more iPad. You need to pay attention, whatever. Like, that's as bad as it's going to get, right? Because I'm emotionally regulated. When I deal with my kids, I'm very like, I wouldn't say I'm stoic. Like, I'm very like, I'm like, bro, I'm expressive, but I'm not, I just don't get violent. There's no need. I don't want to raise my voice at them. I don't need to do that. I don't feel the need. I don't feel like they listen to me anymore. I feel like it just gives them like, it has a negative impact on them. I work really hard on that. Same thing with my wife. I don't want to yell at my wife. I don't want to yell at her. I don't want to raise my voice at her. Even if she's raising her voice at me, like I don't need to match her energy. I don't need to do that. I don't need to escalate ever. I don't need to do that. That's not safe for anybody, for the women, for the children. It's just not safe. And we are the ones who are supposed to be the protectors. That is what that means. Protect those babies, protect that woman from you. Don't worry, the outside world, because here's the thing. Most of y'all can't bust a grape in a fruit fight. Let's be real. Most of y'all not ready. You know what I'm saying? It's some hardened criminal has a criminal record that's been in prison for 16 years of his 34, you know what I'm saying, years on this planet, breaks into your home. Like, you ain't ready for that. Most of y'all are not ready for that. You're not. Even possessing a pew, like y'all be thinking, that's how I know a lot of y'all think that just because you got a weapon in the house that you're ready for that. But my guy, you're not ready for that. You're not. A lot of people get their pews taken from them by robbers, by thieves. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be for real. Y'all not ready for that shit, man. Like, y'all be acting like y'all Rambo. I'm not Rambo. I don't want to be Rambo. I don't need to be Rambo. That's why I got a security system, a dog, and you know what I'm saying? I take precautions. I protect my family as best I can. But that's just one level of protection. I'm not with them all the time. My kids go to school. My wife goes to work. My wife just went to Target for fucking an hour and a half. I wasn't there. If some dude approached her, I couldn't protect her. That's not protection. Protection is when she came home, that's when I protect her, for me. And anybody that's saying that that's not the case, anybody trying to say that, especially men that are trying to derail the conversation from that, you, sir, are the threat. You are the very man that needs to be practicing not being a threat to your family, but you are a ticking time bomb. That dude, Andrew, check his hard drive. That dude is weird. That guy is weird, like very strange.